Hello everybody, it is Steve, your friendly neighborhood lawn gnome. Welcome back to another video over here on That's Comical, and if you're watching and it happens to be a Wednesday, happy new comic book day. Well everybody, we have finally arrived. I have officially seen the official hot button film of 2023. You know this movie inside and out, even if it's possible that you haven't even seen it. I actually decided not to go see it in theaters because people were telling me if I had the ability to see a movie at the time it came out, go see Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which I did and loved so dearly. But now it finally showed up on streaming, so I am here to discuss Andy Muschietti's The Flash, the supposed final installment of the DCEU, according to James Gunn, starring the largest elephant in the room today, Ezra Miller. So The Flash, you know, is one of my favorite superheroes. I've always loved The Flash ever since I was a little kid, but when I got back into reading comic books, one of the titles that was current that I started reading was the current Flash run at the time that was being written by Josh Williamson, and it was such a great read. And of course, so I read the Mark Waid run, the Jeff Johns run, and even read a couple of other great miniseries that involved The Flash, so at this point in time, I love this character, I love the Flash family, and there of course was one pivotal story that was leading into one of the most controversial stories in DC Comics, and that of course was Flashpoint. Flashpoint is even a story that most people who have never even picked up a Flash comic know very much about because it has been featured, or at least a story element that has been used in various other worlds in television and movies and entertainment, and that's the whole concept of butterfly effects and alternate universes. I mean, for crying out loud, the current Marvel Cinematic Universe story is leading up to a multiversal story. So this movie was loosely based on Jeff Johns' Flashpoint storyline, and it was all about Barry Allen just trying to fix the world that he has. Not to say that his world is horrible right now, but considering the fact that he wishes that he had a life where his mother was still alive and his dad wasn't in prison because he was wrongfully accused for the death of his mom, Barry Allen decides to go back in time and right the things that affect his present and hopefully give him a better future. But it's not the case in regards to doing what he wants to do for his own personal wants and needs. And what he creates is a world where superheroes don't exist, and General Zod has come to terraform and take over the world for the use of Kryptonian life. So the original Flashpoint story does not necessarily have the premise of General Zod, but it's definitely a darker, more bleak world, but with a lot more superhero activity. I mean, we're talking in the comic books where the Atlanteans and the Amazonians are tearing Europe apart because they're at war. But in this story, we sort of get those elements, but definitely not so much. We do get a couple of very interesting things, like the appearance of Supergirl, as well as a true fan favorite filled with all the nostalgia that you could possibly muster, and that, of course, was this universe's Batman, with Michael Keaton returning to play the Caped Crusader. And of course, that was something that a lot of people were excited for. I was personally not as excited because, a fun fact about me, I don't really care for the Tim Burton Batman films. But to know that Michael Keaton was willing to come back and don the Batman costume for one more movie for the purpose of sort of kind of wrapping up this DCEU, it was definitely a great callback, and I will definitely say that he was one of the highlights of the film. But is this movie great? Definitely not. This movie is far from perfect, but I have heard so many people say that this is like one of the worst movies ever made, and I don't necessarily think that's the case. Are there a lot of things wrong with this movie? Oh my goodness, there are numerous things wrong with this movie, more than I can even count on my two hands. But I'm also going to defend this movie in a certain capacity because everything that put this movie into controversy and, more importantly, gave Warner Brothers one of the worst box office performances for a blockbuster, it's not entirely their fault, but there's a lot of things at fault here. I mean, the most talked about reason why a lot of people really did not want to go see this movie was because of the controversy that has revolved around the lead actor of this film, and that, of course, is Ezra Miller. He has done a lot of weird stuff, and a lot of people were so angry about the fact that they still were willing to let him don the Flash suit and be in this movie and just conclude this whole DCEU. There was a major uproar and petition about people asking if Grant Gustin, who played the Flash in the television series, the very successful WB television series, to be the Flash in this movie instead. And personally, do I think he would have been a good fit for this movie based on what they were trying to accomplish? I personally don't think so. Would it have been cool to maybe see a cameo of him in an alternate universe? Sure, because there were some big surprises when it comes to characters looking into alternate universes and seeing portrayals of some of these well-known characters. There was also so much controversy in the fact that leadership was changing and that James Gunn, who is now in charge, was saying that there's going to be a whole new DC cinematic universe called the DCU, so that was announced before all the releases of 2023 came out, and so people were saying, is it really worth it for me to go see these movies if these movies are just not going to mean anything anymore? And I will definitely say that this, amongst other things, left a lot of bad taste in moviegoers' mouths, as well as people who were loyal fans of Zack Snyder's vision, because they're still doing the hashtag release the Snyderverse. There's still a whole thing going on about people saying, give the Justice League movies to Netflix so Zack Snyder can finish his trilogy of the Justice League. I mean, I'm not going to say that I would love to see Zack Snyder make more movies, because I personally loved Zack Snyder's Justice League. I love his vision. I love him as a director, but I'm just not going to be one of those people that gets on my proverbial soapbox and yells about everything that's happening right now with DC films is wrong. I will also say that I am not interested right now in Blue Beetle, and I am not interested in any of the upcoming DC films. I mean, James Gunn is going to really have to surprise me, and it's also not just DC films for me, guys. I'm also sort of superheroed out. I mean, the Marvel Cinematic Universe films, I'm just not as enthusiastic for phases 5 and 6 as much as I was for phases 1 through 3. I'm not. There have been some big surprises, and I have enjoyed some movies that have been coming out recently, but I think I'm going to have to put myself in the same boat as people who are quote-unquote suffering from superhero fatigue. I'm just not as enthusiastic about these comic book movies anymore. But I'm not going to stop reading comic books. I'm still reading my comics. I'm still reading superhero stories. As a matter of fact, I am just going into back issues and looking at source material for what some of these brand new movies are going to be bringing, and it just makes me even less enthusiastic for the films. Flash, as a film itself, was truly a proverbial hot mess. To me, it just looked unfinished. The special effects were horrendous, guys. I mean, the scenes where Batman is fighting, you can definitely tell that that is an artificially created image, and it looks so cartoonish, so choppy, just absolutely horrible. And the same could be said for a lot of the other fight sequences and a lot of the other action sequences, but there are still some good things here. I mean, there were some really good moments in the movie. I liked the whole scene where they were looking at alternate universes and seeing some truly great nostalgic callbacks. I mean, I don't classify this as a spoiler. So many people have seen this movie, and anyone who hasn't seen The Flash, I'm pretty certain has no intentions of seeing The Flash. But after I finally sat down and watched this movie, I'm still gonna say, overall, I did have a good time, even though Ezra Miller can be extremely annoying at times in this film. It still was not a movie that, kept me just saying, oh dear God, when is this movie going to be over? No, much like The Flash, this movie was very fast-paced, but even though there were things that were just so wrong with this movie, overall, I did manage to find some of the redeeming qualities, and overall, I am somewhat satisfied with this movie. But I will definitely say the thing that upsets me the most is that the DCEU truly went off with a whimper and not with a bang. As a matter of fact, there was no bang of any kind, not even a sound of a pin drop in regards to this conclusion of this storyline. And knowing all the things that were done on the cutting room floor, all the things that could have been included, I am almost certain we're not going to get a director's cut of Andy Muschietti's vision. Pretty certain, and that's just because of the fact that I think nobody wants it. But at the end of the day, the DCEU has officially come to its conclusion. Love it or hate it, or if you just don't know what to decide. And I am definitely going to say that to a certain degree, I'm sort of glad that it's over, because maybe now the yelling and the screaming of people who are for the DCEU and for those who are against the DCEU, maybe that screaming is just finally going to stop. But after knowing everything that The Flash went through to finally get to theaters, I think I said this once before regarding the Star Wars franchise. I really do think it might be time to just stop with the superhero movies, or at least just stop making so many. I mean, I know that Marvel has said that they're going to be cutting down on the quantity and focusing on the quality, but it still seems to me that they're not doing that because there's so much Marvel stuff still coming out. And right now, they're even struggling with their box office numbers to the fact that they're putting their Marvel shows on network television that have been on Disney+, and they're even making physical media copies of their Marvel and Star Wars television shows. But I've always said that that's a smart decision, because there's a lot of people that are just sick and tired of streaming. Basically, the entertainment world is in such a mess right now, and that's not even including the strike. But I'm just hoping that the executives just get themselves into an office with all of their colleagues and just finally pull their proverbial heads out of their asses and start finally realizing that if we do not start making very crucial changes to how we're presenting content to the masses, we're done. We're toast. So that includes everything from movie theater premieres to streaming services. They've really got to get their acts together, guys. I'm not kidding. So with that ramble over, I'm just going to give The Flash 2 stars out of 4. So thank you very much for watching, everybody. Please leave your comments in the box below. Let me know your thoughts on The Flash. Did you love it? Did you hate it? I'm pretty sure I am not going to see that many people giving this movie some love. I'm not. But in the meantime, everybody, I'll just see you in the next one.